All right, everybody, welcome back to Beans No Ball, episode 23 of Bean Talk. I guess, we're a little tired. Just got wrapped up with a pretty big test here. Did
pass, we're chilling.
Pass, that's the important part here. So now we get into football. Now we get into, obviously a little bit past that halfway point. A lot to talk about. Big thing. Some big news. I think we've been, kind of going heavy into this news, but, something just came out. Ant Rich is finally back, something that I was, really pulling for. I'm pretty sure we were both pulling for it after the way Joe Flacco's been looking in these past couple games. Didn't really give the reason to keep him in there. Like I said, we can see Ant Rich, let him develop, even if the season is a little more kind of over for them. Ant Rich is going to get a chance. I know you're
this is the one thing. I know a lot of people kind of expected it, when Ant Rich first got benched, right? Joe Flacco, his play, it wasn't good, let's just say the least. And then coming into the Vikings game, it was just worse, right? They kind of had the first little lead over the Vikings in the first half. That's kind of more majority of the Colts side of the ball there. Big props to their defense specifically. Towards the second half, Joe Flacco, he kind of just looked washed, right? And, wanting Ant Rich to learn from Joe Flacco from those last two games, it just didn't seem quite the right move from there. And then now this morning announced Ant Richardson, he's going to be the starter for, I believe, the remaining of the season, right? Or is he just going to swap?
As of right now, he is the full-time starter. Okay. Same deal as what they said with Joe Flacco earlier.
So he is going to be the full-time starter there. As for them making a run, it's going to be very, very difficult.
Well, let's also remember their next two games, tough defenses they're facing in the Jets, and don't remember exactly who was that next team, but their next
their schedule real quick.
Next game being the Jets. I know they've been struggling out. Let's not be wrong about that, but still have a really high-powered defense that could wake up at any
and they
moment.
got the Lions.
Exactly, so the Lions defense.
That's already out the window there. But again, like we said, any given Sunday, but when we're looking at the Jets, they've been struggling. Yes, but there's an opportunity for the Jets defense to take advantage of that struggling Colts offense. And the Lions, we see how the Lions are. They've had their little issues there, but even outside of those two games, just looking at how
defensively, can't really say that we've seen too many issues with the Lions, though.
What are you talking about?
First half, sure, they didn't look that good against the Texans, but that second half, all the Carlton Davis interception that really set them back.
That defense is going to
defensively.
The defense, they're bouncing back there, and that's what I'm saying. They got to take advantage of that Colts offense, especially that Ant Rich. He is still developing, right? For them to make a run, it's very unlikely because we got the whole standings up there. Bills at the 1. I'm sorry. KC at the 1, Bills at the 2. Then we have the Pittsburgh at the 3.
Steelers, Houston.
At the 4.
Yeah, because then you got Baltimore, the Chargers, and the Broncos. So, you still got other teams really making their way back. We look at the standings, like we said. For what it's worth, the AFC picture is kind of weak when we see like a 3-6 team like Miami realistically still in it. So, season isn't done, obviously, but, just realistically, you can expect a lot of these AFC teams to kind of start, trending back in the way they're probably supposed to. And it's hard to see Indy being one of those teams to trend back.
Yeah, exactly. There, and they just want to ride it out with Ant Rich. Hopefully, they keep him there at the position because you want to develop him. And we just say this a lot. We see the whole detriment that Josh Allen left in the whole league with drafting a raw quarterback to hopefully develop them there. Josh Allen's one-on-one when it comes to raw talent like that. Ant Rich, it's gonna take him a couple seasons, maybe another season, maybe 2 seasons. Worst case scenario, it takes 3 just for him to get at least at a pro level like that there. But I'm still rooting for Ant Rich. I'm not giving it up too quick on him just yet. I haven't given up on him after his bad play this season.
You can't say to give up on him just yet. Obviously, second year, technically, like we keep saying, it's still like a rookie type season for him, but just not really it's what I would say before he got benched that first time. There's just a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes for an NFL quarterback. You see situations like, just uncanny overthrows and just in general, just a lot that I understand, we see all the raw talent, all the raw prospects, but I don't even know if Josh Allen was making a lot of these mistakes his rookie year that we're seeing out of.
Josh Allen, it was just interceptions. I kind of just really threw everything there. But hey, he developed, wishing the best for Ant Rich to develop like this. He just got to get the team around him.
Yeah, exactly. And I think something else that we got to talk about, one of the biggest, probably not stories, but, storylines in the NFL, the Chiefs, 9-0, obviously, the dark magic is with them. Everything seems to be going their way. 9-0 after 10 weeks. Can they finish 17-0?
Looking at the remaining schedule, looking at the remaining schedule, right? You got Buffalo, you got Carolina, you got the Raiders, Chargers, Browns, Houston, Pittsburgh, and Denver.
And the only ones that really scare me are Pittsburgh and the Bills next week.
Yeah.
This week.
You're sleeping on Bryce Young, man. He's having.
No, look, I would love Bryce to have a great season, but like, just we're talking about. I mean, I guess too, if you want to throw them in, you know, the Texans as a struggling team,
sure, are struggling right now, but they are going to get there. It's still
going to be week 16. You know, that's something else. We'll see what type of team they are in week 16,
and then we'll see if the Broncos. And it depends. Look, if it comes to the case where, you know, the Chiefs already secure the 1 seed and they're going to rest starters on that week 18
when you're
game,
going for history,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. If they are, they're going to be what 17-0 by the point that they beat Pittsburgh, moving to Denver. You're going to expect them to play the starters there, right? But that's going to be a game-tying decision for Andy Reid to see if he's going to risk, you know, injuries come playoff time. But you know, we still got 8 weeks. Yeah, we still got 8 weeks left of football left, so we got to wait to see there. But really, like you said, Buffalo, you can include Buffalo.
I would think Houston
and Pittsburgh.
The main ones that you worry about, to me, Buffalo and Pittsburgh. Yeah. I know, you know, the Texans, you can throw that in there. Could be a game, you know, depending on how they look in a couple weeks. The Broncos close out the season. I know the way they lost this last game to possibly be the one to end the perfect season once again in the last week of the regular season. They're going to definitely be on fire for that. Only other sneaky one that to me I would think the Chargers. That's, you know,
because they always play.
They always play the Chiefs
neck to neck to each other, especially the first matchup this season.
I see, it was an ugly game. Obviously, you know, being that game that they lost Rasheed Rice. Yeah. Just like you said, an ugly game. But of course, that was when the Chiefs were kind of really deep in that lull. So we see now, obviously, the Chargers are kind of starting to pick it up too. They're still holding on to that 5th seed. We'll see how the season is looking. I mean, that'll be 3 weeks from now. See how that ends up looking. But realistically, they can do it.
Coming right now, one of these teams is going to spoil
the season. I don't think they're going to do it. But
one of these teams are going to spoil this season.
But with all the dark magic the Chiefs had on their side, bro.
I don't know. Could I say Carolina just for the meme?
Could it just be
maybe? Or could it just be Jameis out of nowhere going for 400 yards against the Chiefs defense? I don't know. But one of these teams, they're going to spoil
I believe that someone's going to catch the Chiefs slipping. That luck's going to run out eventually, but I don't know, man. We're getting to the point
with the way the NFL is.
But when you see it, like, you know, when you teams start like, you know, 5-0, 6-0, that's regular. Once you get to the 10-0 range, if you get to 10-0 and you start cruising by that point, it starts getting real.
Look what happened to Pittsburgh in 2020, man.
That's a different story. They were a fraudulent team from the start.
Look, if I gotta make my pick right now on which teams are probably gonna end their season, probably gonna be Denver or Houston.
I would say, and look, in all reality, and you know what, and I'm just gonna put it out now because I was gonna say this. I mean, I could save this for my week picks, but I'm gonna put it out right now. I have the Bills winning this week. I would think, to me, that's the team that's gonna give them the most. Josh Allen plays Mahomes really good in the regular season. Postseason, that's a different story.
Postseason,
But in the regular season, Allen pretty much has his number. This Bills team is just on a rise. It's luck against just sheer will with Buffalo. And I think the Buffalo Bills are definitely going to possibly have that upper edge, but we'll wait and see.
This could be Allen's MVP case right here.
It very much could
probably be my MVP case, but this is going to be one of the games for this week. I'm going to have to look into more because I didn't do a good job on looking into last week where I probably would have had a perfect record except for the Saints game.
Exactly. But I mean, what else do we have to talk about? Okay, yeah. You know, obviously, you know, we get to that point where, you know, maybe some trends can start changing. You know, what are some teams that could possibly, you know, have that Eagles type of collapse, or the Rams just pulling out of the ashes like last season?
Well, if we're going to talk about coming from the dead, as of right now, it's looking like Miami. I mean, what? Same thing with them. Yeah. Rams were 3-6 last year. We finished off 10-7.
Exactly.
That could be a case for Miami as well. But again, like I mentioned with the Colts, with how impactful and how deadly this whole AFC.
But the difference you look at, and I mean, if we could say our own thing about the Colts, but we see Tua playing
Miami's
at a level. Honestly, this is some of the best football we've seen out of Tua in his career. Sure, last week it wasn't that good, and despite, you know, they pulled out the win. That's the important part there against my Rams. But look, I mean, the receiving core is looking great. I'm just repeating what I said in the video. I'd like to see a little more of that run game, and the defense really wasn't at their best. But if everything starts clicking little by little, the way Tua's playing, a lot of times Tua's mistakes or stuff like that have been what holds Miami back. If Tua becomes the factor to keep them going, don't be surprised if they sneak into that 6 seed like last season, or 7 seed possibly, and they could make some noise against a 2 or a 3 seed.
That is true. And when we're looking at that schedule, Terry, the next 2 games, they got the Raiders and the Patriots, right? The Raiders seems like
and you can already throw them in there possibly in 5 and 6 in a couple weeks.
Yeah, exactly. If they win these next 2 games against the Raiders and the Patriots are probably going to give them the more trouble just because of their defense.
Of course, which
they're going to have a shot.
They did beat. No, the Patriots beat them, didn't?
The Patriots.
Or Miami.
Yeah, the Patriots, they beat them 50-10, but that was without Tua. Now you have Tua into the equation with this offense. Completely
You
different
just do
story.
have to factor in, Tua didn't look the best against a rising Rams defense.
Mm-hmm.
You had a rising Patriots defense who looked very good last week. You start factoring stuff like that into it.
Yeah, exactly, right. And then you got Green Bay next, which,
I mean, they're
really,
6-3. You can't even can't call them
then you got the
coming
Jets,
up from the ashes.
Then you got the Jets, Houston, San Fran, Cleveland, New York. So is this a doable? Is it doable? Yes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the two teams that are gonna give them trouble. It's gonna be the Houston Texans and it's gonna be the Niners, right?
And I think the only other team that you could truly say could possibly, rise up is the Cincinnati Bengals, because they're playing great football.
Oh, yeah.
They're not a bad team.
It's Joe Burrow's literally helping this team. It's
I mean,
just that defense, man.
If it wasn't for this defense, Joe Burrow's probably right up there in the MVP case.
It probably would be
He
number
probably
one
is
in
the MVP
yeah.
frontrunner.
If they were 8-2, he would be the frontrunner for the MVP without a doubt. There,
Because you look back at the games, I mean, those two Ravens games, defense lost them for him.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs game, defense lost it for him. That's just three right there. Could throw in so many others. And, they could be 7-3 right now.
minimum at least 7-3 there, and he would have been the frontrunner if they
Absolutely.
were obviously not on top of the division, but obviously
Jamar probably would have been the offensive player.
Exactly. I mean, he kind of is working his way towards the offensive player of the year there, but that's still up for debate there. But I do see Cincy still making a run there. It was just an unfortunate loss.
Right now they're my favorite to sneak back into the 7th seed. I had them winning the division, but obviously their defense is really stalling out on them.
And they do.
But I like the chances.
Chargers, Pittsburgh, Dallas. That should be a quick win. Tennessee, Cleveland, Denver, Pittsburgh. The only team
None of them are quick wins.
The only teams are gonna have it's just their next their two matches with Pittsburgh. That's really gonna decide everything there, right? But again, coming back to my main point, with how stacked this AFC team is, they're gonna not even just they gotta pull up miracles to win all these games. They gotta hope for all.
But let's also not forget the bottom of the AFC playoff picture is very weak.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Bengals do start getting on a little run, 7 or even 6 seed is very easily attainable. And that's why I'm
worried about the Broncos too. They're still
but let's also see how they'll end up favoring them. Like we're saying, there's a good chance that a lot of these teams could start trending in different directions. I think the Bengals are really going to take advantage of a weak AFC in the season. That's why we look at the NFC. That's when it's going to be harder to see who's going to really rise from the ashes. Obviously, the Rams, they're one game better than they were when they started that run a while back. It's hard to see. There is still a chance. I'm looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 4-6. I mean, it's looking rough for them too. Losing those receivers.
Need a lot of Baker for that to happen, right?
Yeah.
We saw the Niner game. That was all. Even though he had a pretty slow game to start off with, but towards the end, Baker was doing what he's could. And obviously, if he ends up making this, if he at least gets the 7th seed without his two main wideouts, that just improves a lot of Baker's case in the quarterback that he is for the Bucs, and a great signing that they did there. But 4-6, he can only do so much there. He's gonna have to put a lot of emphasis.
It's pretty hard when your top receiver is Sterling Shepard.
Exactly. Look at that there, right? He's doing what he can. He's doing what he's worked with, and that's what I really like about Baker. He's working with what he's got, and it's paying off for the most part. But it's just the defense as well there.
Exactly.
They had their bright spots,
which they had their bright spots early. Obviously,
yeah.
That win against the Lions that really gave us good signs about this Bucs defense. But
they're very inconsistent. They're
very inconsistent, and forgetting consistency. Now they're consistently struggling at the last couple games. So I would love to say Tampa. I would love to say Baker can rise this team from the ashes, but not having much help around him is going to end up hurting him. He almost completely willed this team to beat the Niners, and just wasn't enough at the end of it. But
I don't even think the run game with Rashad White and Bucky Irving. I mean, if they do step it up way more in the run game with a 1-2 punch, like we see with Atlanta's doing it, we see with Detroit's doing it. If they can do it like that, they could make the run there. But they're just gonna rely on that defense to see how much they're gonna help them.
Absolutely, and could say the Cowboys.
No,
couldn't even throw that out of there.
No, forget
exactly.
that.
I know I was gonna just poke some fun at you there, but I know there's no saving this team.
There ain't no delusion here. It's just straight depression and wanting to.
But on the other side of things, teams that are looking great that could slip some up. I mean, we're already seeing a lot of that from the Minnesota Vikings ever since, obviously the tough loss against the Rams and the loss before against the Lions. They still look like a good team to that point, but now you see that game against the Jaguars, really eye-opening.
Sam Darnold's place
3 red zone interceptions.
Yeah, exactly. And you could even throw in the Houston Texans. That they are slowly.
No, and that was my next team to say.
They're on a 2 L streak there, but
despite being probably one of the better defensive teams, right? Obviously 5 interceptions on Jared Goff. offensively, they've really been underwhelming.
Yeah,
CJ
and
Stroud.
look, I mentioned before about the sophomore slump. The sophomore slump
It's
is not hitting
hitting
them hard.
No, but
like,
it's hitting them.
But there's obviously it is hitting them for the most part. There, the sophomore slump, it is there compared to his stats from last season, and how he's able to will this team together. It's obviously not been really, really bad. Like we said, like what Peyton Hillis from the Browns, like exactly like that. Dak's rookie year coming to 17. That's another example there. It's not hitting as hard, but it's definitely hitting, some spots to the point where they're on a 2-L streak. They're 6-4. They're what? I think they're 6-2, 6-3, 6-2 at one point, right?
I don't remember their exact point they were. I mean, yeah, they would have been 6-2 if they're on a two streak. So yeah. They've been struggling. The only saving grace for them right now is that the whole division is struggling.
Yeah.
And, specifically, that's why, despite what happens with the Colts, or despite what happens anywhere, I think everyone's going to stay exactly where they are because everyone's just, nobody capitalizes on the mistakes. The Colts, if they would have capitalized, if Ant Rich wouldn't have gone through all these mistakes, they could easily be at the top of this division. But everyone seems to be just falling behind each other. Everyone seems to be stepping on their own feet.
Yeah. I'm not, like you said, I'm not worried about the defense. It's just the offense, especially with the receiving end. I mean,
and that's why I was talking about Bobby Sloak, and his offense is looking,
Yeah, I mean, Nico's on IR. IR.
And I know we don't have Stephon.
Yeah, Stephon's up for the season, so Nico's at least going to make his return later in the season. Hopefully,
he's probably coming back this week, right?
Because I think last week there were some reports that he was
because they activated him off IR last week. Yeah, he was possibly trending to play. He didn't. Yeah, I'm expecting.
But obviously losing Diggs, that's obviously that's pretty much not the center of that receiving in there, but that's the veteran.
But it was a big focal point.
That's what I'm saying. He was a big focal point, and he kind of did distract most of the defense for the offensive side for Nico and everyone else there, right? I'm going to need a big step up from Tengdell. I'm going to need a big step from Mechie. I know Mechie's had his injury issues that he didn't get to play a lot last year there, but we saw his connection to him and Stroud against the Lions. It was working there, right? So until Nico comes back, like Nico's going to come back hopefully next week.
Yeah.
Mechie's still going to be in the lineup there. So is Tengdell. And Tengdell, that's one of my players to hopefully make a big impact this season. He's going to need to do a lot if the Houstons want to make a better run in this playoffs, especially for seeding position.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the only other team I could probably throw in the Falcons after, we've seen some ugly losses in all honesty. And, they play a lot of teams that you would expect them to just really take care of more. And, you can understand, a slow game here and there, but they kind of seem to pile up. I mean, sure, Kirk's had his great games against the Bucks. I mean, yeah, against the Bucks, he's been able to pick apart a couple teams, but there's also the other side, I'm still, really pulling for the Falcons to end up winning this division. That was obviously both of our pick, but, there are some alarm bells that, you look at, could be some red flags.
Man, even the Cowboys game, it shouldn't have been closer than it was. It should not have been a 6-point game, right? And then even crazy, coming into that game, the pass rush for the Atlanta Falcons, I think they were either dead last in the league or 28th, right? But they're in the bottom of the barrel when it came to pass rush. They got 2 sacks in that game and this and that, and they still managed to keep it close, right? It shouldn't have been a close game with all the pieces on the Dallas is missing. The whole line's the detriment of the O-line, just this and that, right? Yeah. Then you have the Seattle loss that came out of nowhere, kept another close game against Tampa, right? Then you lose against a struggling Saints team that, they did get Derek Carr back, right?
But regardless if you have Derek Carr, if you have Riley,
we didn't expect it to be good at all.
Exactly.
Right? So there's obviously a lot of alarms going on here. And then, Drake London, he had the hip injury. He did pretty well. He did accumulate for 97 yards on the air, right? So you're not there catching, right? But maybe that injury could come back to at least for some point there. But with the receiver outside of London, you got Mooney's making a really big strong case for him. You have Raven McLeod finally being a big factor in that offense. And Kirk Cousins, I mean, come on, against these teams, you gotta show more there. And then Bijan and Algier, they gotta get more active on the run game as well. Raheem Morris, he's gotta call some stuff like that.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
The defense.
Forget Raheem Morris. I mean, defensively, I would like to see a better output, specifically, from a defensive head coach. But offensively, Zach Robinson, obviously their offensive coordinator that Raheem pulled in from our staff, from the Rams. I expected a lot more out of his offense, especially all the weapons. I mean, everything we talk about, we've seen, the little signs. Kyle Pitts kind of had the revitalization. Then he goes back to looking like Isaiah Likely all of a sudden. I really expected Robinson to do a lot better with this offense, but, we still got that rest of the season. You got to pick it up, especially, even if you win the division, going into the playoffs is a different animal. But I think we can leave that there. I think we can head into Thursday nighter. Commanders, Eagles. It's a great game. Obviously, it's gonna be rough seeing, everyone in your division succeed, but you guys. But I mean,
Well, you got the
but-
Giants too, so at least they're in the bottom of the road.
yeah, but that was already
in the
known.
favor.
We expected it. I mean, we expected Eagles, Cowboys to be going at it. Now this is the matchup that we get to see who ends up on top. Which the Eagles slowly climbing back. As much as we kept saying, the Eagles looked like when they were like about like 5-2, 6-2. They don't look like a great 5-2 team. They didn't seem to be, hitting on all cylinders. Offensively, all of a sudden, the last couple games, that they're completely changing the story. They're definitely throwing their head in the ring. Could be challenging the Lions for that top team in the NFC.
Yeah, and then
the one defense in particular.
Yeah, and the one big thing too, like I said, Jalen Hurts. He took what I said seriously about him in the beginning of the season, but he's looking better. He's looking really more comfortable. The O-line's giving more time. I know the Cowboys defense, they gave him a really big struggles in the first quarter, some of the second half, getting to the pass rush, forcing the turnovers there. And then after that, they woke up, they found the issues within that defense, and they absolutely pounded us, right? In the second half, completely different ball game. They found our weak spots, and they kept pushing forward. And this is exactly what Kellen Moore is doing, right? And I expected Kellen Moore to have another shit job with the Eagles with the calling, right? Like he did with the Cowboys there. But they're drawing up great players. They're getting Barkley involved in the rush in the rush game and the pass game. AJ Brown's still, putting up a great amount of yards. Devonta's still their second option. The O-line's still great. Their defense, like I said, with Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, really made a statement against that Cowboys team containing CeeDee Lamb. That's really all they needed to do to contain that whole offense, and it really paid off there. You're coming into a Commanders team where Terry McLaurin, he's finally popping off there. Brian Robinson, he's been a little iffy there, but he's finally getting more in the run game, which is something I'd like to see. Jenny Downs is making a stand as the best rookie quarterback so far in this class right now. And the defense, who's been labeled overrated the past couple of seasons, is finally stamping up there. But when we're looking at the teams that the Commanders have faced with Jane Daniels, right? The Ravens, the Steelers, they have been close. They put up a battle, but they come up with a loss there. Today, I think this is where they change there. I'm going with the Commanders in this game. This is going to be the one game where they're not going to let a good team, put them in the barrel like this, especially with a quarterback like Jalen Hurts that's really stamping up there. This is going to be another statement game for Jaden Daniels, especially now that implications for the NFC East are in line now.
Absolutely. I mean, I want the Commanders, and I want to agree with a lot of the stuff you say, but I think the way we're seeing, when a team gets hot and you're running away with, the way your schedule's going, it's hard to pull that out. And I think the Eagles are going to end up coming away with this game. It's tough, man. Honestly, my heart's with the Commanders, but, my head's telling me Philly.
My brain's Philly, but my heart's Commanders at this point.
And we're going with different sides of the thing.
I still hate both these teams, right? But I got to choose one of them.
Yeah, no, I mean, realistically, as much as, obviously that high-powered offense that Daniels has been looking, we saw, even putting up 28 points against another great defense in Pittsburgh, I think that's going to slow down a little bit. When we'll get to the parlay, we'll be explaining a little bit of that. But, I think this Eagles secondary is going to be able to contain these guys a little bit. That front seven that's, been picking up the pace little by little. I think Commanders are going to definitely, be a little slower than we probably expect. In large part, I really think that it's still going to be like a relatively high scoring game. Probably both teams in the 20s.
For the Thursday nighter, I'm hoping it's still good.
Thursday nighters have been cooking it as of late. But honestly, as much as I think defense is going to be a factor, not the defining factor as a lot of people probably would have wanted, but I think Philly pulls out like a 28-24 type win, and they're going to start getting close to the Lions and really starting to get some distance with the Commanders. We'll wait and see how that looks. But
close it out with the parlay.
Obviously, got the Commanders away team first. As for Jaden Daniels, as much as I'm saying, maybe give him a little bit of a struggle, I think he's still going to hit the over on his 226 yards. Doesn't seem like too much. Seems like an easy ask for him. Brian Robinson, I think he gets back into the end zone. Obviously, believe he got in the end zone last game. I think we'll see another one out of him. And one of the defining factors, I think Terry McLaurin has a slower game. I think as he gets slower, the emphasis will end up shifting a little bit to Noah Brown. I'll take less than 62.5 yards receiving for Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, and as for mine, I got the Eagles. Like I mentioned, I have a lot of praise for this Commanders defense to really show against the Eagles, but I still got AJ Brown going over 82.5 receiving yards. He's still gonna get those yards towards the end of the game there, so I'm gonna have to expect a little more from them. Devonta Smith, he's been struggling a bit. I know he's a little on and off here and there, but I'm gonna go him less. Finally taking the less for once. I'm gonna go him in less, 52.5 receiving yards.
Might actually hit one here.
Yeah, maybe. And then I'm gonna go Saquon once again. He just been a dog on the ground. No, he didn't do a lot on the ground against the Cowboys as much as he's been doing.
Well, it's because I bet on him last week.
Yeah, maybe that's the case there. But once again, I'm hitting the less on Saquon for 93.5 yards. I'm still going to expect a nice running game from him. just not gonna hit the 100-yard mark there.
Absolutely. I mean, hey, if we're finally hitting a couple unders, you know, that might be the difference than smashing all the overs that we're used to. But that's gonna do it here. It's gonna wrap up another Bean Talk. Obviously, let's hope the Thursday nighters continue. We've been getting fed some good ones, and you know, obviously, hope they continue. Now, thank you guys for watching. Hope you like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys back for the Week 11 recap.